Hello, I'm Kaiser and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today, I will be reviewing One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is a queer paranormal romance. The description says, for cynical 23-year-old August, moving to New York City is supposed to prove her right, that things like magic and cinematic love stories don't exist, and the only smart way to go through life is alone. She can't imagine how waiting tables at a 24-hour pancake diner and moving in with too many weird roommates could possibly change that. And there's certainly no chance of her subway commute being anything more than a daily trudge through boredom and electrical failures. But then there's this gorgeous girl on the train. Jane. Dazzling, charming, mysterious, impossible Jane. Jane with her rough edges and swoopy hair and soft smile, showing up in a leather jacket to save August's day when she needed it most. August's subway crush becomes the best part of her day, but pretty soon she discovers there's one big problem. Jane doesn't just look like an old-school punk rocker. She's literally displaced in time from the 1970s, and August is going to have to use everything she tried to leave in her own past to help her. Maybe it's time to start believing in some things after all. Unbelievably, this was a 4-star read for me. I cannot express how much I should not have liked this book. Had it not been my book club pick for March, I would never have read it. I had seen a few people review it with a resounding shrug, so I went into it with very low expectations. I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston a couple months ago, a book I should have liked, and felt very neutral toward it. I'm not a big reader of sapphic romances. Nothing against them, I just don't tend to gravitate toward them. I'm not a big fan of time shenanigans, and I didn't find any of the characters particularly relatable. Everything about this book should have promised indifference at best, and yet I found myself really enjoying it. While I didn't find the characters relatable, they were very likable. This was kind of a surprise for me because the book opened by introducing us to one of August's new roommates, Nico, who happens to be psychic. Psychics in contemporary settings tend to irritate me. Nico probably benefited from the book being a paranormal fantasy, but I still would have expected him to annoy me. Add to that an artist who makes weird sculptures out of weirder mediums, a sullen recluse, and the drag queen across the hall, and I should have been frustrated the whole ride. And that's not mentioning the protagonist who claims not to want any friends and tries to own as few things as possible. These characters do not sound at all like people I would ever want to read about, but somehow putting them all together just worked. Also, this is very much a found family story, and I guess I'm a bit of a sucker for that trope. And I really enjoyed the romance between August and Jane. I was on board with the two of them from the moment they met. I mean, who doesn't want a total babe on the subway to rescue them from a terrible morning? It was very much a meet cute I could get behind. That isn't to say the book is perfect by any means. The pacing was a little uneven in places. I think this is mostly due to the book juggling a few too many plots. They all ended up threading together pretty well, but I think the book occasionally had to slow down to let one or another plot marinate a bit, and the other plots were kind of held hostage by their inevitable collision. By virtue of Jane being trapped on the subway, there was a limit to how much the girls could reasonably do together. McQuiston certainly made the most of it, too much at times, but it did hamper the romance a bit. Part of this book was extremely predictable. I'll get into this more in the spoiler section, but the simplified version is that they introduced a plot element early on, and I immediately knew exactly how it was going to play out, and was right. Also, the end introduced some extra drama that felt unnecessary and could have easily been removed without detracting from the story. Also, most of the chapters were entirely too long. That's not to say they dragged, just that my Kindle estimates my time to finish a chapter, and it was routinely guessing an hour when other books tend toward maybe 30 minutes. I don't like stopping in the middle of a chapter, so long chapters cause me problems. Still, I had a good time with it. I would honestly recommend it, but keep in mind that most people seem to find it very middling. That's it for no spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. Like I said, I felt like this book was juggling a few too many plots, and it made the pacing uneven. August's mother has been searching for her missing brother Augie since the early 70s. August is falling in love with Jane. Jane needs to remember her past and be rescued. The diner is going to close and has to be saved, and there's a secondary romance playing out between August's roommate Wes and the guy living across the hall. As if that wasn't enough, late in the novel, McQuiston adds some extra family drama that largely seems to serve as nothing but a deus ex machina. That's a lot to resolve, and while most of it was done pretty well and tied together fairly seamlessly, some of it either ought to have been removed or needed more attention to be satisfying. I did not like the sex in this book. It wasn't bad per se, but it happened on a subway train, and that's just gross. I thought it was exceedingly galling when, after having sex on the subway, August complained about Jane tossing her glasses aside because they might have picked up a bacteria and blinded her. Ma'am, you've just had sex on that train. It's a bit late to worry about germs. Also, you've lost all right to complain about germs given that you are almost certainly contributing. I don't think it helped that this book is ostensibly set in 2020. Not real 2020, of course, but even if the characters don't have to deal with certain events, I still remember them. So I found myself rather distracted when Jane was fingering August on a crowded subway, thinking about the fact that since she's trapped on the train, she can't exactly wash her hands after. I really could have done without those bits entirely. Early on, August's mother sends her a file on an old associate of her brother's that might be living in New York, which August doesn't look at because she told her mom years ago that she doesn't want to be part of her investigation anymore. And it was immediately obvious to me that the file was about Jane. Later, when Jane mentioned her sweet-faced roommate in Louisiana, I knew without a doubt that it was August's uncle she was living with. Look, there's nothing wrong with being predictable. Plots ought to make enough sense that at least some people can puzzle it out in advance. And there's a certain point at which, if you've read enough stories, you can mostly guess certain plot beats. It's fine. But it drove me completely nuts when August started thinking that Jane's birth name, Bu, sounded vaguely familiar, though she couldn't think of why. I spent multiple chapters wanting to scream at her that it was right on the goddamn fridge. And then, of course, that isn't even how they figured out Jane knew Augie. I thought the romance between Wes and Isaiah didn't have enough room to breathe. I didn't feel like Wes got fleshed out that well as his own character, and their relationship really didn't get enough development for me to understand either why they should be together or why they weren't already. When Wes declared his love near the end of the book, it felt completely out of place and more or less unprompted. I think they either should have been together already or not had a romance at all in this book, but if it was going to be there, it should have been given more thought. I also wish we hadn't bothered with the grandmother leaving August money. It served no real purpose in the story other than to resolve the diner plot. Similarly, I didn't like that after Jane got freed from her subway prison, McQuiston felt the need to have a 3-month fake-out that she'd gone back to her own time. We're not stupid. We know how this goes. She's coming back. And the thing is, I think the money plot was meant to facilitate the Jane is gone plot. We needed Jane to be gone for a while for the drama, so we needed to fill that time. And we needed her to arrive at just the right triumphant moment when they're celebrating the salvation of Billy's. I think the book would have been a little tighter if McQuiston had just left out the grandmother plot entirely. If it was necessary for August to argue with her mother, which I don't think it was, there could have been some other catalyst. August then would have only known her grandparents as bad people, which she concludes after very little fanfare anyway. If we really need Jane to be missing for the drama and the perfect reunion, let it just be a few days. Have the fundraiser be successful. It did take a few days to settle the accounts afterward, so we could still have the triumphant reveal and the subsequent party. It would just cut out some unnecessary chaff and also allow the characters to succeed at what they were attempting. Also, I didn't like that Augie was dead. In a book that is generally about finding the people you love and good things in the world, it felt a little contradictory that August's mother should come up empty-handed. She neither solves her decades-long quest herself, nor gets reunited with her brother. All that's left for her are secondhand memories from other people. Despite all that, I really did enjoy it quite a bit. It was a nice surprise. Anyway, that's all I have to say about One Last Stop. If you liked this video, I hope you'll watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!